Most prisoners who entered that camp didn't last a week. No rescue, no escape, just silence. But one man did survive, not because he was stronger, not because he was lucky, but because he understood the one rule nobody else saw. In a place designed to break every prisoner, he became the one man it couldn't erase. Stay with me, because the reason he lived is the same reason everyone else died. The camp didn't have a name, not an official one. Soldiers called it the pit. Villagers called it the place without footsteps, because no one ever walked back out. It sat deep in the mountains, hidden behind mist and pine. Barbed wire curled like thorns. Guard towers rose from the fog like dead trees. Inside, cold mud, rotting barracks, and men who didn't look like men anymore. When the Chinese soldier, his name lost in the files, so we'll call him Lian, was dragged in, the first thing he noticed wasn't the guards. It was the silence. A silence so complete, it felt intentional, like the camp itself was listening. The men around him didn't speak. Some didn't lift their heads. Some stared at the ground as if afraid the dirt would talk. Lian had seen battle, hunger, exhaustion, but this was different. This was a place where the enemy didn't kill you. You killed yourself slowly by making the wrong choice at the wrong hour under the wrong eyes. He learned that truth in the first 10 minutes. A prisoner next to him stepped out of line, half a step. A guard didn't shout, didn't raise a gun, just tapped another guard on the shoulder, a nod, and the man disappeared behind the barrack. No sound, no struggle, just gone. Lian realized something instantly. The camp didn't punish mistakes. It erased them, and survival here wouldn't be about strength. It would be about reading the air before it moved. The first night, the cold was worse than the hunger. Frost seeped through the cracked boards. Breaths turned into tiny clouds that froze before they faded. The man beside Lian shivered uncontrollably. By morning he was dead, but not from the cold. A faint bruise ring marked his throat. Someone had suffocated him in his sleep. Lian didn't panic. He didn't ask who. He just watched. And that's what saved him, because he realized the real danger didn't come from guards. It came from the other prisoners. Most POWs weren't killed by the enemy. They were killed by the people sharing their bed, over scraps of food, over blankets, over nothing. Fear turned men into animals. Animals without rules. But Lian understood something the others didn't. Animals attack noise, movement, threats. So he became none of those things. He slept like a stone, breathed softly, moved slowly, never reacted suddenly. He wasn't hiding, he was reducing his presence, shrinking his silhouette in the minds of others, becoming a man no one noticed. In the first week, 10 prisoners died. Not one touched him, not because he fought for survival, but because he stopped signaling he was alive in a way others could sense. That was lesson 1. Disappear without disappearing. The second danger was hunger. The daily ration was a ladle of watery rice porridge. Most prisoners shoved their bowls forward, desperate, trembling. Lian didn't. He waited, watched, and only stepped forward when the guard's eyes were elsewhere. He ate slowly, deliberately, never looking like he enjoyed it, never looking like he needed it. Because in that camp, showing need was weakness, and weakness attracted predators. On the 5th night, a prisoner tried to steal from him. Lian didn't fight back. He didn't even hold the bowl tightly. He let it go. The thief blinked, confused. Why didn't he resist? Because resistance escalates. Surrender dissolves. The thief left. Lian quietly waited until everyone slept, then collected the spilled rice on the dirt floor, grain by grain. It wasn't pride. It was math. A beaten man becomes a target. A man without conflict becomes irrelevant. Lesson 2. Never look like you're worth attacking. But the third danger was the worst. The guards' games. Every morning they forced the prisoners to stand in the yard. They would pick someone for inspection. A random man. Always random. Sometimes they made the prisoners sing, sometimes kneel, sometimes slap another prisoner. Sometimes they asked a question with no right answer. If he refused, beaten. If he obeyed too quickly, beaten. If he hesitated, beaten. It wasn't torture. It was calibration. The guards were trying to find the limit of each man, where he broke. Once they found it, they pushed harder, until the man stopped moving entirely. Leanne never stood straight, never slouched, never looked eager, never looked afraid. He chose the center. Perfect neutrality. When the guards paced in front of him, scanning faces for reactions, Leanne didn't freeze. He breathed normally, soft, controlled, like someone who had already accepted everything. And in a place like that, a man who doesn't resist or react becomes uninteresting. Predators don't hunt stones. 2 weeks passed. The guards never chose him once. Other prisoners noticed. Some whispered he was blessed. Some whispered he was cursed. But no one touched him. Lesson 3. Survive by giving the enemy nothing to work with. But the fourth danger wasn't physical. It was mental. Most prisoners died because they collapsed inside long before their bodies gave up. Isolation snapped their thoughts. Silence became a weight. Cold became a voice whispering, "Stop fighting. Just lie down. Rest. Let it end." Leon knew that voice. Everyone heard it, but he answered it differently. Every night, while others curled up and prayed, he tracked time by the drip of water from the roof, counted breaths, mapped the cracks in the wood, rehearsed memories slowly, carefully, like turning pages in a book he didn't want to tear. That rhythm kept him anchored. It wasn't hope that saved him. Hope collapses when reality tightens. It was discipline. Cold, emotionless, stubborn discipline. Lesson 4. Never let your mind become quieter than the prison around you. By the 3rd week, the guards changed tactics. They started rewarding obedience. A scrap of bread, a sip of warm water, a blanket edge. Prisoners began betraying each other for crumbs, pointing out mistakes, lying, feigning loyalty to captors just to stay alive another day. The guards smiled. Because this was the true design of the camp, to make prisoners police each other so the guards didn't have to. But Leanne refused both extremes. He never rebelled, he never volunteered. He stayed just useful enough to avoid punishment and just unremarkable enough to avoid attention. When a guard dropped a bucket and yelled for help, Leanne stepped forward second, not first. When they asked who stole extra food, he neither defended nor accused. When a prisoner begged for protection, he didn't shake his head. He simply looked away. Neutrality, balance, stillness. The kind of behavior a camp couldn't interpret as threat or weakness. Lesson 5. In a system designed to force choices, choose nothing. But everything changed the night of the fire. A lantern in the barracks tipped over. Flames crawled up the wooden walls. Smoke thickened the air. Prisoners panicked, running, screaming, pounding on the locked doors. Guards watched from outside, debating whether to open the gates. Inside, chaos became deadly. Men trampled each other. Others tried breaking windows with bare hands. Leanne didn't move. He crawled beneath a bed frame, wrapped his shirt around his mouth, and waited. Because he knew one truth every prisoner forgot that night. The guards would save the barracks, but they would never save the prisoners. When the door finally burst open, the men who rushed out were beaten back. The guards didn't want escape. They wanted order. But the ones who stayed low, the ones who didn't run, were dragged out alive. 23 men died in that fire. Leanne wasn't one of them. Lesson 6. When chaos erupts, do the opposite of the crowd. When winter hit, death rates doubled. Frostbite, infection, starvation. Bodies became lighter than blankets. Voices became whispers. Hope became a rumor. Leanne kept moving, but slowly, never showing energy, never showing collapse. He walked like someone conserving exactly enough life to not draw attention, and that's what carried him in the spring. When the camp was finally abandoned, guards retreating as the war shifted, survivors were marched out in a line. Only 7 Chinese POWs walked. Dozens more lay frozen behind them. Leon didn't celebrate, didn't collapse. He simply kept the same rhythm he had used to stay alive. Soft, neutral, invisible. Years later, when asked how he survived, he didn't tell a hero story. He didn't talk about strength. He didn't talk about hope. He said something far colder. I survived because I behaved like a man the camp didn't need to kill. Not heroic, not dramatic, just real. Because sometimes survival isn't about fighting. Sometimes it's about understanding the psychology of a system built to erase you and slipping through it like water through fingers. In a prison where everyone else died, he lived because he didn't play the game. And that's the part most people never understand. If this story stayed with you, even after you close the video, then stay with us. Like, subscribe, or leave a thought, because every time you stay, one soul of war doesn't disappear.